Hello everyone. Today we are going to do the last lesson, that is chapter 1 from Flamingo for students of class 12th. Dear students, before we go further, let us take a look at the books that have been prescribed by the NCERT. We have basically two books. Book number 1 is known as Flamingo, which is the main course book, and second book is called Vistas, which is the supplementary reader. Going further, take a look at the contents in the main course book. We have got 8 chapters of prose, and then we have got 6 poems. Now, since we are concerned with our first chapter, that is the last lesson, let us know a little about its writer. The author's name is Alphonse Daudet. He was born in 1841 in Nîmes in France. He was a very talented writer. One can see that he started writing at a very young age, and when he was just 14 years of age, he had written his first novel. At the age of 17 only, he had got his first volume of poetry published, and even today, he is considered to be one of the most iconic names of French literature. Alphonse, having dedicated his life to the cause of literature, died in 1897 in Paris. This last lesson, the chapter, is based on a particular event. The background is Franco-Prussian War. Prussia in those days was a very powerful European empire. It consisted of countries like Germany, Poland, and some parts of Austria too. In the year 1871 and 72, a war between Prussia and France was going on, and as a consequence of the war, France was defeated. Result: two major districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, they fell into the hands of Prussia. And here it is the thing that our story begins. Prussian rule, of course, affected the life of the people of Alsace, because just after it went into the hands of Prussians, an order from Berlin came, and as per the order, the teaching of French language was banned in all the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. And instead, the language of German would be taught there in those schools. We have the main character, Mr. M. Hamel, a French teacher in the school of Alsace. He is going to be transferred soon, and he would no longer remain in his school where he had been teaching for decades. But although it is his last lesson today, he is showing his utmost devotion and sincerity, and he gave his last lesson to the students with all the sincerity that he could show. The story depicts the pathos and the whole about how people feel in not learning their native language and losing a wonderful teacher like M. Hamel. Before moving on to the story, let's take a look at the characters. I told you M. Hamel is one of the two most important characters in the story. He is a teacher, a traditional schoolmaster who has been teaching the language of French for 40 years. He is a strict disciplinarian and always keeps his terrible ruler under his arm. He tries to ensure a strict discipline among his students. But through the story, we get to know that he is very soft at the heart, although he looks very tough outside, he's very soft, because we see how softly he treats Franz and he does not scold even when he was late. We also get to know that he has a lot of love for his country and the language that he teaches. He considers French as the most beautiful language in the world and asks the people of his class to guard it among themselves. We also see that Hamel is a true patriot. He displays the qualities of a true patriot throughout the story, and in order to honor his last lesson, he wears the best of his clothes. He talks about the need to have one's native language, and we see that all the people of Alsace, they respect him very much because he has dedicated 40 years of his life to the selfless service. Towards the end of the story, we find that he is overwhelmed with emotions and he writes Vive la France on the blackboard, which simply means long live France. The second character, another most important character in the story, is Franz. He is a student and he also goes to the school of Hamel and wants to learn French. Belongs to a poor kind of a family because we see that he's often asked to work in some mill or on the fields so that he could earn some money. We see that Franz is a flamboyant kind of a boy who doesn't want to go to school and loves outdoor activities and environment. But he's too much scared of his teacher, Hamel. Through the story, we also see that he has a good sense of understanding, feeling, recognition, and respect. Very easily, he senses the unusual atmosphere of the school, and he also is troubled to know when he gets to know that his teacher is leaving the school forever. He notices the sad expressions on the faces of people sitting in the class and also on the face of Hamel, listens carefully, and this is how we see that Franz has all the sense and he has got a nice head and heart. Let's go through the summary now. When the story begins, we see that Franz is going to school. He's already very late and he's in a hurry. He's afraid of being scolded by Hamel for two reasons particularly. One, he is late, and second, he has not done his homework. The homework was, he was supposed to learn the lesson on participles. At first he thinks of not going to school and running away, spending the day outside because it was a nice warm day, bright day. There were beautiful birds chirping at the edge of the woods, and another sight that tempted him was the sight of Prussian soldiers who were practicing their marches and who were drilling near on the field. But somehow he overcomes his temptation and rushes to the school. While he is going to school, he passes by the town hall and he sees that there is a crowd of people in front of the bulletin board. The bulletin board here, simply students, means a notice board. Franz does not have a very good opinion of this bulletin board because it is this bulletin board that has brought Alsace all the bad news over the past 2 years. Because the war had been going for past 2 years and all the news like the killing of soldiers and losing of their land to the Prussians, these kinds of news items, they were always displayed on this bulletin board. Franz this day also presumed that there must be some other bad news, but he did not stop to inquire and went on. The blacksmith of the town, who also had read the news on the bulletin board, he stops Franz not to hurry and tells him not to hurry. He also makes a remark that there was a plenty of time. But Franz did not slow down, thinking that the blacksmith was just making fun of him. Franz reaches school, and on the way he was thinking that he would somehow sneak into the classroom unnoticed amid the noise of students and desks. But when he reaches the school, he is a bit surprised because there was all quietness and calmness everywhere. Students were sitting quietly in their respective seats. The teacher, M. Hamill, he was just moving up and down the room, and he was not rapping his ruler on the table. Everybody inside the class was looking serious and quiet. Finally, he gathered courage, opened the door, and entered the class before everybody. To his surprise, M. Hamill did not rebuke him. Instead, he told Franz to go and take his seat. Franz looked at the teacher. He was surprised to see that his teacher, M. Hamill, he had been wearing the best of his clothes, green coat, a frilled shirt, and embroidered black silk cap. Franz was confused because he had always seen his teacher wearing these clothes only on special days, special occasions. He could not understand why Mr. M. Hamill was wearing those clothes on that day. When he settled down, Franz, he looked here and there in the class, and he found that there were some more surprises for him because the back benches in the classroom, they were occupied by some village people. Some people from the village were sitting there on the benches. Among them were the former mayor, the former postmaster, and there was an old man named Hauser who was wearing his three-cornered hat. There were some other village people as well. Franz could not understand much. Meanwhile, M. Hamill stood up and he started addressing the students. At the outset, he told the students that an order had come from Berlin. And as per the order, French would no more be taught in the schools of Alsace. He also told that German language would be taught from tomorrow onwards, and that the new teacher of German would arrive the following day. With a heavy heart, M. Hamill told the students that they were going to have their last lesson of French that day. It was at this point of time that little Franz understood what the order was on the bulletin board, and the mystery was resolved. Why the blacksmith was telling him to stop, not to hurry, why the people of the village were sitting in the classroom. He also now understood why M. Hamill was wearing those beautiful clothes. At this point of time, little Franz feels very sorry for himself. He was feeling sorry because it was going to be his last lesson. He was feeling sorry because he had not been able to learn to read and write, and now he would have to stop forever. He was feeling sorry that he had wasted a lot of his time. He preferred enjoying outdoor games, did not attend the school, did not learn his lessons. He always dreaded M. Hamill and his iron ruler and did not even care to learn about the lessons. But today, he noticed that his own attitude had suddenly changed. All of a sudden, he began to feel that his books were his good companions. It was now Hamel's turn. He was talking to the students one by one, and when little Fran's turn came, he told Miss, he told Franz, Hamel told Franz to stand up and recite the rules for the participle. Little Franz wished he could say the rule, but since he had not learnt his lesson with heart, he failed miserably. Hamel's reaction was quite unusual than the other day. He did not scold Franz. He said that Franz was not the only one to blame for his failure to learn the lesson. He also gave the reason that everyone was somehow responsible because people of Alsace were in the habit of putting everything till tomorrow. He also said that his parents were also to be blamed because so many times they wanted that Franz should go to earn money instead of going to the class. Towards the end, he also blamed himself. He admitted that several times, on several occasions, he had given his students a day off whenever he wanted to go fishing. In the due course of his lecture, he tells everyone sitting in the class that French language is the most beautiful language of the world. He tells them it is the most logical and the clearest language in the world and wants everyone sitting there to stick to it. He assures them that if they hold fast to their language, if they follow their language, someday they would be able to get rid of the Prussian soldiers and they would get freedom. According to him, their mother tongue was the key to their freedom from slavery. Although it was Hamel's last day at the school, he taught everything in the best of his ways. He taught grammar, gave writing exercises, and he asked little children to trace their fish hooks. Little Franz listened to his lesson attentively. He felt that Hamel had never explained the lesson as clearly as he did that day. Actually, this was not the case. It was never ever that Franz had heard his teacher with such concentration. It appeared to little Franz that the teacher wanted to give his pupils all that he had to give. It was time for the class to be over because the church clock had struck 12. Hamel wanted to say a lot of things to the people sitting in the class, but he felt choked. He was overcome with emotions. He could not speak much. He simply stood up, picked a piece of chalk, and wrote "Vive la France" on the blackboard, which simply means "Long live France." And with a wave of his hand, he dismissed the school. That is the story, dear students. And now let us have a look at the theme of the story. We will find that the story gives the most important thing, that freedom is very valuable for every one of us, and everyone should give due importance to his native language and time as well. The story also throws some light on a universal message, and the author wants to tell us that one's native language is one's own recognition and that it should be regarded from the core of the heart. That's all for today. Thanks. Have a nice time.